Good morning, All Souls. I invite you to come with me on a walk through our world and feel awe and wonder of God. As we see Him every day around us, the beauty and mystery of the natural world teaches us so much about the constancy of God's love. In these days of war and uncertainty all around the world, I think we as human beings are desperate for a glimpse of the God who is almighty and everlasting. I was surprised when I read this quote from Einstein, and the Reverend Chris was talking about Einstein the other day. The most beautiful experience we can have is mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Whoever does not know it and cannot wonder, no longer marvel, is as good as dead. When we look at the seasons year on year, spring, summer, autumn and winter, I believe we see God's control and reliability for everyone, not just for a few, but for everyone He has made. Year in and year out, we can be sure that summer will be followed by winter. Every day, we have a day and a night for everyone, the rich and the poor. How different this is to the fickle mind changes of our politicians. How different to the way we, the rich, divvy up Earth's resources. Every day, we have a beautiful sunrise with a blank sheet to try and live our best life. And every evening we have darkness when we can rest and sleep. Sleep, isn't it wonderful? However awful the day might have been, we have respite. Even if you're an insomniac like me, we have time alone when no one is making any demands on us. But sleep is much more than rest. Sleep is amazing. When we lose consciousness, our bodies use the time very efficiently. There are 4 phases of sleep. Phase 3 and phase 4 are particularly interesting. Phase 3 is our deep sleep, and during that time we have physical restoration. Our tissues repair, our muscles strengthen, our immune systems rejuvenate. Now sadly, this phase reduces with age, and that's one of the reasons why our bodies decline. But phase 4 is for a completely different function. Phase 4, the rapid eye movement, is when we have memory consolidation. So if you've been learning something new or prepping for an exam and you've lots of new information in your head, go to sleep and your body will put it all in the right order so that you'll get rapid retrieval of that information the following day. So that's the point. Go to sleep on it. And that's what happens. So let's not get above ourselves. Let's just see where we are in the grand scheme of the things. So you can see the sun and you can see the earth, and here we are. We're just third in our solar system. And remember, this is one galaxy of trillions of galaxies with trillions of suns. But we're the little earth with our own little moon. Not all planets have moons, so we are sort of special. And the Earth revolves around its own axis every 24 hours, and that's what gives us day and night. And it revolves around the sun every 365 days, so that's what gives us our seasons, depending on where we are in relation to the sun. But all of this works, and it works like clockwork, and it works every day of your life and my life, and our grandparents and our grandchildren. God is in control of the universe, in my opinion. And we have moon, and we have moonlight, and it's all very romantic. But actually the moon doesn't have any light of its own. It just gets light from the sun, and that's why we have the phases of the moon, depending on where the moon is in relation to the sun. The moon actually controls our tides. And I don't know about you, but I love walking on beaches. Preferably alone, with my dog. And where else can you see the wonder of God more obviously and closer to you? You stand there and you see the tide going in and out, and you just see the regularity and the conformity with which everything works. So we need to take time to be still and to see the universe. I don't know about you, I'm a Martha, I'm a doer. I find it very hard to, not have a project. But it's when we sit still and when we actually look at what is around us and appreciate it that I think we see the rhythm of life. We see the unity of creation. We see that the universe is alive with harmony. And that certainly brings hope and peace to my soul. So let's move from the macro to the micro. We've seen the splendour of God around us. What about the wonder of God within our own selves? As many of you will know, I worked in Queen's for most of my career, and it was a privilege to work there. I think work is worship, and I was very, very lucky to have that job. And my area of research was fertility. So here you've got the sperm and the egg. And you may not know it, but of the 500 million sperm that make the journey to the egg, only about 50 of them ever get there. So this is like you or me running from here to Portadown. Put your hand up if you could run from here to Portadown. Yep, not one is even going to say that. And when you get to Portadown, then you've got to do the most fantastic job of your entire life for the sperm, that is to fertilise the egg. And it's absolutely amazing that this can happen. That this is something that we call the everyday miracle. And even after 45 years, I never lost my awe and wonder of looking at this. From this tiny sperm and egg actually going through 40 weeks and ending up with a baby. I mean, wow, just absolutely wow. And do you know that 97% of babies all around the world, all the babies who are born without any significant health issues. That is a fabulous statistic. Because if you look at this process, as I spent years and years looking at this process and seeing where things could go wrong, and there are so many things that could go wrong, but actually they don't. And I just think it is quite fabulous. And there is pure joy. A new life. A perfect new life. What could be better? I love travel, I love being outside, and I love looking at the diversity of fauna and flora. And here we have all these animals, and each one of these animals is adapted to its particular environment. Did that happen by chance? As a scientist, I can't believe that. I believe in evolution, but I've always believed that there was a supreme being behind the whole process. Now, I do think that God has a sense of humour. And when you look at even just one species, look at dogs, you can see how many different types there are. They say that people become like their dogs. Well, I wish I could become like my dog because he's rather flash. But I don't know, you think about that yourself. The diversity of cultures. I think travelling is a wonderful thing if we have an opportunity to do it, because when we see other cultures, it should have the effect of making us more tolerant. Because there are many other cultures which we may think in our arrogance are inferior or more primitive than ours. And yet many of these cultures have many things to teach us in terms of their respect for nature, which is something that sadly I think we have lost to a great extent. Yes. There's also the no, that's gone back. Can you go forward? Yeah. So we've got, I love gardening. So we've got all the flowers. Look at all the different flowers. Look at all the textures. Look at all the colours. Look at all the beauty. It's, our world is just absolutely fabulous. And if that wasn't enough to blow your mind, then don't worry, I'm not going to get a bit crazy here. But there's actually something in nature called the Fibonacci sequence. And flower petals and seed heads and shells and even ratios of human limbs compared to the torso all follow a pattern. And it's this mathematical sequence where the arrangement of the units is the sum of the two preceding ones. So if you have 0 and 1, you get 1. If you've got 1 and 1, you get 2. If you've got 2 and 1, you get 3. If you've got 3 and 2, you get 5. If you've 5 and 3, you get 8. Susan, am I right? Right. So what is really interesting about this is we as humans have adopted this sequence in many of our skills today, in architecture, in art, in space exploration and engineering. These Fibonacci numbers can help us with population growth models and data structure analysis. And where are they? They're there in front of us in nature. Another thing I'd like to point out to you, and just with 3 little examples here, are the codependency or the symbiotic relationship of animals and plants. If you take the butterfly, every butterfly and every moth has a very specific leaf which it will lay its eggs on. And the reason for that is because that particular leaf and that particular plant has all the nutrients that are needed for the larvae of that particular butterfly. Then if you look at clownfish nestle among sea anemones. The clownfish get protection and the sea anemones get a little cleaning service because the clownfish pick off all the bits of food and particles of debris. And then the third one is this beautiful little plant called lantana, which I love. And when a bee has pollinated a petal, the petal turns a different colour. So it goes from being yellow to being pink. So the next bee comes along, doesn't waste its time pollinating that particular petal, it pollinates another one. Like, wow. And the reliability of nature, same things happen over and over again. I have a rose in my garden called American Pillar, and it's in full bloom on the 4th of July for Independence Day every year. And then, of course, we all know about the orange lily. It's out in full bloom on the 12th of July. You can be sure of it. So I just want to finish off by telling you a few exciting things about our bodies. The stomach is full of acid that produces hydrochloric acid at a pH of about 3, strong enough to dissolve zinc. Now you can imagine that would actually also dissolve the lining of our stomach, and that would not be good for anybody who get an ulcer. But in order to combat that, the cells of the stomach are some of the fastest turnover of any of the cells in our body. So the cells turn over very quickly to keep the stomach lining intact. Our lungs, which have the job of taking the oxygen from the air and putting it into the blood so that it can go all around our circulatory systems, they have the surface area of 2 tennis courts. Did you know that? Human bone is as strong as granite. A block of bone the size of a matchbox can support 9 tons. So it's pretty good. And I've just got a couple more examples just to blow you away. A single blood cell only takes 60 seconds to make a complete circuit of the body's circulatory system. Our kidneys filter 1.5 litres of blood every minute. So all I can say, and I think I can rest my case, we are remarkably and wonderfully made. But what's most amazing about being human? Well, I think there are a number of things. Now, each of these could be a sermon on its own, and I certainly don't tend to sermonize. But these are things that I think are very special about us as human beings. We have self-awareness, and we have an ability for moral reflection. Animals don't, but we do. We have a conscience, we feel shame and regret. Now, I think my dog feels shame sometimes when he does something and I look at him. I think he feels quite a bit of a shame. But generally speaking, we are the only parts of God's creation that have shame and regret. And certainly we have a capacity for abstract thought, which allows us to contemplate the future, which is great to organise our environment, but it also allows us to contemplate the spiritual. And I personally, and I think probably all of us, are here because we desire meaning beyond this life. We desire something which is above and beyond the mundane. But what are we going to do? Every lecture has to end with an action point. What are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? All I can do here is set the scene for this fabulous cosmic dance, which I believe God designed, created, and sustains on a daily basis. And I think we have to be still, we have to celebrate, and that is very hard, but practicing the practice, if we start to practice this on a daily basis, then we get the hang of it, and then we do it regularly. It becomes as important to us as eating our dinner. Having gratitude, being grateful for this amazing world and the gift of life, every morning waking up and saying, yay, got another day. And of course, gratitude is good for us too, because it makes us feel great, as well as celebrating God. An acceptance of each other as part of this wonderful creation. There must be the appreciation, but then the service, the doing. There must be something, we must do something to pay back. And I think that's compassion and generosity. I don't think it's judgment. Dare I say it, I don't think it's mission to convert other people to our religion, but I certainly think it is kindness. Kindness, it all comes down to. God has been so kind to us, and personally I think that is our job here on earth, to do the next right thing. And that's what I'm sermonizing over. Amen.